With a room full of young people, scriptural principles on dating.
Scriptural principles on dating. There are none.
Okay.
Dating is not a practice acknowledged by the scriptures. Dating is a modern American practice that is foreign to the biblical idea or concept. Modern American dating is glorified divorce practice. It's learning how to give yourself away to people repeatedly and then take it back. It's very unhealthy from my perspective. I think people who are not ready to be married, who put themselves in dating situations, are like people who go shopping without any money. Either you're going to leave frustrated or you're going to take something that doesn't belong to you. So my encouragement is that people need to start thinking about those kinds of things only when they are at a place where they are ready to be married. If you're not at a place where you're ready to be married, then you don't need to be defrauding anybody. And when you are at that place, then you need to have that in the forefront. Not, we're just going to kick it and maybe later on if something, whatever. No, you need to have that in the forefront with that kind of mindset and investigation and propriety and honesty and all of that, up front when you're entering into relationships with people of the opposite sex. But the idea that you would just sort of casually give yourself away to multiple people, that's just not healthy, and it's not something that you would find anywhere in Scripture.
So when you find yourself interested in someone of the opposite sex, even let's say you're not going to date, propriety and how to treat one another, and just would you just share a little bit on that? Thank you.
Yeah. Let me just tell you, a conversation I had with my oldest son. I don't know how old he was at the time, maybe 15 or whatever, and we're in a place and there's this young girl who is interested in him, and I'm like, hey, afterwards, we're talking. I'm like, hey, she's interested in you. What do you think about that? No. Come on. You know she's interested in you. I know she's interested in you. She knows you know. She knows you know that I know that we know. So what's the deal?
Everybody knows.
Yeah, everybody knows. Everybody knows. So what do we think? And I don't like you like that, don't you? Come on, be honest. It feels good, doesn't it? Yeah. I said, you know what you're supposed to do, right? I don't know. I said, avoid her like the plague. And he goes, why? I said, because you like the fact that she likes you. You're nowhere near being at a place where you can satisfy the desires that she has. So the only thing you can do is defraud her and use her for your enjoyment. If you care about her, stay away from her because you don't want to do that. Now, that's foreign to the way we think because we live in a culture that celebrates using each other. But I think from a biblical perspective, our goal is not to defraud each other. And so we need to be very careful when involved.
Thanks for your question. Really pertinent. Anybody else? Yes, right down here in front.
My 9 children, all of my children who are of age, have they dated? No. We didn't do the dating thing. No, never did the dating thing.
And you said you have how many children?
9.
And their ages range from?
23 to 10 weeks.
23 to 10 weeks. Any of them married?
Yeah, no. We have one who got close.
Okay.
We have one young man who came and was interested in a courtship with my daughter, and we kind of walked through that whole process and, came to a place in the evaluation where that wouldn't to happen. So.
And can you tell our audience how you would have been involved or were involved in that courtship?
Yeah, from the get-go. Young man who was interested in my daughter, and again, I write about this and what he must be if he wants to marry my daughter. Young man was interested in my daughter, so I'm the gatekeeper. He was obligated to come to me, and I spent a long time with him, just evaluating him from my perspective, knowing what I know of my daughter, and trying to determine whether or not he was the kind of guy that should be allowed to enter into that kind of evaluative relationship with her. So from the get-go, was involved with that process and partnering with that process. And when our children are small, we talk to them about that process. And, you know, they understand that it's a partnership. I think it was Alistair Begg who said it best. Alistair Begg said, "It amazes me that parents will look at their children who just a couple of years earlier needed help picking out their socks and just send them off to pick out a mate by themselves." Makes no sense, none whatsoever. So, yeah. I use the illustration in the book of, you know, there's a guy, and I'll tell you the story, and if you've read it, don't give it away, but there's a guy in the book, and, you know, the guy's getting ready, and the young man's coming over, you know, this is 16-year-old coming over to his house, and so he's getting ready for this 16-year-old young man coming over to his house, and he's got his guns out, and he cleans his guns, and, you know, and he done some push-ups and some curls, and he got a tight shirt on so he can sit there and look intimidating and everything, and, you know, he's going to make the guy wait, so when the young man comes over, he's not there, you know, he's back in the back room, and so the young man has to come in and sit down in front of the guns and stuff, you know, and the wife goes, "Oh, he'll be right here," and then he walks out and he sits down in front of his guns and he's cleaning the guns and he looks at him and he goes, "You know, I love her, right? Yeah, I do." And you know what'll happen to you if anything happens to her, right? Yes, sir, I do. And he goes, "You know what time she's supposed to be home, right?" Yes, sir, I do. And so he gets up and he walks over to the stairs, and on the wall there's a line of keys, and he takes off the keys to his $200,000 Lamborghini and hands it to this 16-year-old boy and says, "Bring her back in good shape." Now you hear that story and immediately you say, what man is dumb enough to give the keys to a $200,000 sports car to a 16-year-old? Here's my question. What man is dumb enough to think his daughter is worth less?